G'day and welcome to another 2022 player report card. We are up to the lad from Echuca, Brodie Kemp, same town as the great Andrew Walker, who I saw his young son was training at the Blues the other week in some sort of academy type thing. And Bendigo Pioneer lad, breeding ground for the Carlton Football Club, the Bendigo region, back in the halcyon days of the 1970s and the 80s when that region was all Carlton, and we got our fingers crossed for Brodie Kemp. We got our fingers crossed. Their fingers crossed really at this stage. It's a really hard one to get a read on. 6 games across those 3 seasons, just the 4 this year after playing the last 2 last year. Got a sniff last year and impressed, but only added another 4 this year, but one of those was as a medical sub. So he's really only played the 3 full games. Game span, knee reconstruction first year. Well, he didn't do it at our club. He'd done it in the under-18s, but it counted him out for the whole season. 2 last year and then 4 this year. Position defender. When he got his opportunity, it probably wasn't his preferred spot down back. You know, he's probably the 3rd tall at 192 centimetres. He's definitely not a key back as such. But he had to play that role. Given our injuries to our key backs at different stages throughout the year. Contract status, 223, signed a 2-year extension in September of last year after finishing off the year very well. Draft, I don't know. This will be a talking point. I mean, it shouldn't be really now because it's done and dusted, but it will be at some stage a talking point. And you've got to wonder, you know. 2019 draft, pick number 17. We did have pick 11, I think it was, and that was the pick we were trying to use to get Tom Papley. That fell through, and we hung on to the pick. And then on draft night, Sauce turned that pick. I think did he swap it with the Suns? Yeah, I think he did. Swapped it with the Suns and turned pick 11 into 2 picks, 17 and 20. And we took Kemp with 17 and Cook with 20. And it's not so much what we could have got at 11. The Suns took Sam Flanders, and then I think there was a host of players. They've gone on to play some reasonable football. Will Day, Miles Bergman, Cody Waitman, Cooper Stevens before we got Kemp. But it's the pick after, or the 2 picks after, and in particular one that, I don't know, it just hurts. And that's Sam DeConning at pick 19. Georgiades at 18. The fact that we had Tom already on our books, he was showing a fair bit. And I know, he's just sort of come out of the blocks this year and is now a premiership player, but goodness gracious me. It hurts. It hurts a lot because you think, will this be another William Stocker situation down the track? And this is not a knock on. I think we're building quite a good list, but all these little things do hurt. They do hurt, and I'm sure Nick Austin's, got his thinking of all this and how we get around all this. But I mean, to think that we could have had Sam DeConning with that pick 17. And I know a lot of other clubs, I mean, the Bulldogs, they picked up Cody Whiteman. I mean, they could have picked up Sam DeConning. But we had his brother there. We had his brother at the footy club. We had Liam Jones coming towards the end. Oh, well. Anyway, fingers crossed Kemp can get his act together. Season snapshot, had a relatively injury-free pre-season. Was trialled as a sort of a third tall in a lot of the match sim, from his position down back. They sort of trialled him up forward. And that went right into the VFL to start the VFL season. He was overlooked for the seniors, obviously, from round 1 through to round 7. I think the first 3 or 4 games he started as that tall in the VFL, and he didn't set the world on fire, to be perfectly honest, in that position, and they sent him back, and he performed a lot better. And then got his chance against the Giants in round 9, his first game for the season, after Lewis Young, who was performing quite well as a key back, went out of the team because of the health and safety protocols. Kemp came in and played against the Giants in that win over at Giants Stadium. Was made the medical sub the following week against the Sydney Swans in round 10 when Young returned, and then was omitted for the round 11 clash against Collingwood. Returned to the VFL for 3 games, and then came back into the seniors in round 15 against the Dockers at Marvel. His champs because Sam Durden went out. He was injured, and Wiedering was injured as well. Wiedering had gone out against the Pies, brought Sam Durden in the mid-season draft, and then as soon as he came in against the Tigers, he went out. Okay, he went straight out, and then Kemp came back in as a key defender against the Dockers and backed up against the Saints a week later. But then was omitted in round 17 for the trip against the Eagles over in the West, and that was when Jacob Wiedering made his long-awaited return after injury, and then Brodie Kemp spent the rest of the season in the VFL, including playing a couple of finals, one against the Pies and one against Brisbane. Statistically, and an AFL, it's hard to get a real read on his stats in 3 games, and also the fact, how much do you take into account the fact that I think he was being not so much played out of position as a defender, but not his preferred spot down back, which is probably an intercept third tall defender rather than your sort of big monster key back who has to do a big lockdown role in the likes of, say, Harrison Petty at the D's. So his average in disposals and intercept marks, average in one-on-one, below average in spoils, metres gained, and pressure acts. But he was elite with disposal efficiency, and I think one thing that has been a bit of a knock on him has been his kicking, particularly its speed when he's running with the ball. But yeah, he uses the ball quite well in those games. Statistically, at VFL level, got a really good block of games this year. 18, which is good, really. That's a large chunk of games. Averaged to 12 disposals, 4.6 marks, rotating between back and forward. Started forward, went back, and then finished the year forward. Scoreboard 10-7. Last 2 games is where he probably impressed the most as that tallish forward. 2 goals straight against the Pies on the G in that curtain raiser, 16 disposals and 6 marks, and then 2 goals, 3 in an elimination final against Collingwood at Victoria Park, 13 disposals, 8 marks. He was really good that day. So is that where they think he's going to be? Is that the spot? Is that the spot? I'm not going to go through his best and worst games. I think that's unfair, given he only played 3 of them. So just quickly, GWS, 14 disposals, 5 marks. He partnered up with Jacob Wiedering in that game when Young went down. Obviously, Himmelberg and Riccardi, the 2 key forwards for the Giants, only kicked 2 goals each. Fremantle, he had 17 and 8 marks. He was pretty good in that game. Key back with Lewis Young, Tabernar and Lobb. Tabernar 2 goals and Lobb 1. And then the St Kilda game. Just even before that game, we were just so undermanned when you go in with Lewis Young. He's still pretty young himself, and Brodie Kemp. He's undersized up against Membry, King, and Ryder, and they got their pants pulled down. They had 13 disposals and 5 marks, but Membry kicked 4, King kicked 3, and Ryder kicked 2, and they rotated between those 3. And he was consequently dropped the following week when Weeders came back. I think I don't know a lot about him. He's a hard one to assess at the moment. I think the way I want to sort of look at him at the moment, I think his biggest strength is his versatility, but I also think it could potentially become his weakness, or maybe even his downfall. And I know that seems a little bit stupid because you often hear coaches say, you like players who are really flexible, and he is, but is he going to be actually good enough in a set position? Going to be a role player. The first round draft pick is going to be a role player. Or has he got the tools to be something better than that? I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I just think his versatility at 192 centimetres, he's not going to play key back unless we are absolutely decimated down back. He's not going past Weeders Young, and they've kept Durden on. And I think he's third in line behind McGovern, Marchbank, definitely third in line behind those two. And you got Dom Aq, has just been signed again as well, coming through. He's showing a little bit. So, yeah. So is it forward when you look at it? Is his chance forward? Because they trolled him forward at the start of the year. It didn't work, and they trolled him forward late in the VFL, and he showed a little bit. One word, Brodie, Kemp. I just put predicament, and it goes back to this versatility thing, and it's almost like he's caught between a rock and a hard place. Where's he best suited? I mean, there was talk that he could become a midfielder when he was first drafted. That big-bodied midfielder. He's got some speed. He's a good athlete. It is too early to tell. It is too early to tell. But I just feel for him that I don't know. I just feel like he's behind, and a fair bit behind at the moment in the pecking order of things. Given he's out of contract 223 next year, you'd like to think that he could get it. He'd want to get a bit of a wriggle on in regards to really pushing for a senior spot early next year, even round one. Because if he's behind and he's continually playing VFL football next year, he's starting to ask questions. He's starting to ask a lot of questions. It's going to be a fucking really interesting trade period. It really is. And I'm not 1 minute saying trade Brodie Kemp, but geez, we've got a little bit of depth in that area. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Is he potentially tradable? I don't think so. I think we invested a bit in him. Sauce invested a bit in him. But how does Nick Austin view him? Nick Austin signed him last year. Wonder how he's seeing his development. Anyway, I'll give him a 4.5 out of 10. That might seem a little bit harsh, but played 2 games last year, late in the year, the last 2 games, and showed a little bit. And we were probably expecting a little bit more than what we got this year, to be perfectly honest. I think he was really solid at VFL level, but I wouldn't say outstanding. I think it's disappointing for him that he could not play or give an opportunity to showcase his attributes as a third tall intercept defender, but they prefer McGovern and they prefer Marchbank. But he's got age on his side, and there's competition for spots, which we like. So is his best opportunity, guys, forward? Is his best opportunity forward? Does he have the tank? Does he have the running power, the endurance to be that third tall, to really push up the ground and get back? Because they do a lot of running, a lot of unrewarded running, those sort of third talls. Anyway, 4.5 out of 10 for Brodie Kemp. Tell me what you think. Speak soon.